PDP and many others, all with the objective of uprooting NRM's Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. After almost 40 years, the same political parties and others yet to be formed are still struggling to remove Museveni.
We are relying on people power, the power of the people to be able to dismantle, to be able to overwhelm the NRM system.
They have just divided FDP. They have just right now in the process of dividing FDC very, very seriously, using money as well. And even in Nupu, as I talk, the process is on.
So help me God.
Some of the NRM strategists believe they have ridden on the opposition party's weakness of only preaching the rhetoric like Museveni agende, literally meaning Museveni should go.
Did they have an ideology in the first place? Because if you look at the catchwords they have been using in the campaigns, agende, senyondo, kotapini, engule, people are looking for personal aggrandizement. They are looking for personal prosperity, but they are not looking for the prosperity of the people of Uganda. That is the major difference, and that's where NRM beats them all.
Museveni outshining mostly political parties formed after 1986 is not a surprise to veteran politician Captain Francis Babu and political scholar Reverend Dr. Simon Feta.
We had different little groups. These were pressure groups. These pressure groups formed into eventually parties. So again, they thought that it is the norm. If you want to remove the man in power, you've got to use that method of resistance or defiance or whatever you might want to describe it. So that now, in my opinion, I actually told somebody one time, that was a style then, it is out of date. We need to find a different approach.
The mobilization strategy ought not to be about removing head of state. It should be about educating the people about how they own the country, how they own themselves, and how they can own the processes that govern them.
Captain Francis Babu and Reverend Dr. Simon Feta believes these political parties failed due to weak strategies and believes now if they resort to the law to address the NRM dominance and using systems friendly with Ugandans, they may make some gains.
And if any political system or party assumes monopoly, it should be redressed through the law. In the current status quo, I think that the law has to be given a wing, maybe 6 wings to fly, like angels. I think that every political party will form themselves, organize themselves on a particular ideology.
We are in a pool of confusion because we have refused as Ugandans to admit there are certain things we have failed to see, and whilst we are trying to adopt other people's system, we have left our system asunder.
Frontline.
A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Frontline on NBS TV. My name is Charles Mwangushampagi. Today is a very historic day in the history of Uganda. On the 25th of January 1971, Idi Amin took power in this country. I don't know if Fono will be helping us to do the mathematics, how many years ago that was. But rumor has it that the National Resistance Army actually took Kampala on the 25th of January, though the declared date was 26th of January, 1986. How many years from 1971? That's another 15 years. 15 years. So a total, about 52 for Idi Amin, and 38 years for the National Resistance Movement and President Yoweri Museveni in power. Many people, you must have watched the president give his own account, do his own stock taking of his 38 years in power, ticking off what his achievements have been over the years, what work remains in progress. But there are also critics who say, well, look back and ask, should we be here or should we have been ahead? And what does 38 years mean? we'll be discussing that and more. But more importantly, how many leaders are able to maintain a near perfect international standing diplomatically after 38 years in power? You can scan across the globe and we'll be looking through that. How has he been able to pull off that relatively solid international recognition and acceptability over the years? I've been seeing memes on social media, TikTok especially, comparing Ugandan roads with Kenyan roads, comparing Ugandan schools with Kenyan schools, and giving Ugandans a big laugh. I mean, it's humbling. It's I don't know. It's not humbling. It is a lot disappointing for some, but we'll evaluate that as well. And let me also say at the beginning that we congratulate PLE pupils who received their results today and those who performed well, and commiserate with those who didn't perform well, but at P7 they still have a chance to make good. Tonight on the front line, let me start from the extreme end. Ambassador Adonia Ayebare, he's Uganda's permanent representative at the United Nations in New York. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you for having me this evening. Thank you.
And you also elected chairman of non-aligned technocrats, ambassadors? Which one is that?
Senior officials.
Senior officials. Chairman of the senior officials of the non-aligned movement.
But that ended. Now I'm going to be coordinating the ambassadors of G77 and NAM.
G77 and NAM. And those are the conferences that we've been hosting in Kampala over the last few days. Ofono Opondo is a frontliner and executive director at the Uganda Media Center. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, and I come from Mulanda.
You come from Mulanda. Yes. Very nice to have you. We have the leader of opposition in Parliament, former spokesperson of the National Unity Platform, member of Parliament.
When did I cease to be?
Hey, you were keeping how many positions? You're member of Parliament, spokesperson, and leader of opposition. I had no idea that was the Honorable Joel Senyonyi. Very nice to have you, sir.
Thank you, Charles. Good evening to you. I just noticed you have a panel of retired journalists. And we have a host who is in semi-retirement. Because all of us have applied that trade here.
Yes.
So anyhow.
Well, it's a panel of it's a panel of journalists discussing events in the news, and politicians now turned politicians, turned diplomats, and last but not least, making a return. Honorable Ssemujju, I really find a lot of difficulty explaining your absences because people want to eat me up when you're not on the show. But Honorable Ssemujju Nganda represents the people of Kira Municipality. He's a member of the Forum for Democratic Change and the Frontliner. Very nice to have you.
For now.
For now?
Yes.
Meaning?
For now means for now.
You're also in transition?
Do you want to
know
something?
Yeah.
I have said I am a member of FDC for now. Yes.
Okay. They used to say that is a very pregnant statement. Let me do a quick run around the panel. Some members of the panel, I think apart from Ofono Opondo, and to some extent Ambassador Ayebare, the other people seem to be within, a little above. President Yoweri Museveni's 38 years. Let me start with the person I believe should have had almost his entire life under President Yoweri Museveni, the Honorable Joel Senyonyi, to ask, what do these 38 years mean? And let me put a rider. We just emerging out of back-to-back international, very successful international engagements, which is a mark of confidence in President Yoweri Museveni after 38 years in power. You had the Conference of Speakers and Presiding Officers of Parliament. You had the non-aligned movement. You had G77 plus China, or the Third South Summit, South-South Cooperation. And you had IGAD meeting in Kampala. That's quite heavy for someone who's been in power for 38 years to happen within a space of a month, or less than a month actually, 2 weeks.
Let me commence with something which maybe some people do know, now that you were talking about our age. So, Mr. Museveni and his group came into power in January 1986.
How old were you?
I was born in December of that same year. And my father wanted me to be called Yoweri. Because there had been an interesting situation. My father had gone somewhere to do a short course, one of those countries. So while there was chaos here, so he couldn't return. I was still dating with my mother, called her place of work, this landline phone, and said, you know what, I can't return, it's chaos. Let me work out papers for you to come and join me, wherever he was, I don't know. But as they were still in that mix, Mr. Museveni takes over, and there was tranquility. So he called and said, no need for this paperwork, I'm returning home. So he returns, I don't know, Feb or thereabout, I'm not sure. Then I was born in December.
Of that year. So you're a true Museveni child?
He said, we must name our child after this hero who has made sure our country is tranquil. But my mother said, but that Yoweri name might give our boy trouble in future. Let's give him the English version. So they struck a compromise. And so I get to be called Joel. So I was named after a man I am fighting so hard to throw out. Maybe I'm trying to redeem my name. Anyhow, away from that history, 38 years of Mr. Museveni, it's important to look at what he and his team promised as they came through. You know, sometimes they make comparisons and say, we are not as bad as this, we are not as bad as this other group. And again, also that needs to be interrogated. But what did you promise? If we are to juxtapose, let's say the 10-point program, juxtapose that against the situation today, it's a miss, Charles. It's a totally different picture altogether. Yeah. You see people who were hell-bent on fighting corruption. We have mastered the art of stealing. The other day, the IGG told us we lose nearly 10 trillion shillings. Then another time, the same office said 20 trillion shillings a year. They probably need to reconcile their figures. But we lose plenty of money on an annual basis, and it's deliberate. Mr. Museveni will not fight corruption because corruption is a system that his system feeds on. So if you're to give them a score, you score them against what it is that they promised. They came saying, no, there's been a lot of brutality by those that have been in power. Just look at the situation today. Anyone that says, okay, I am coming for your seat, they'll throw everything at you, including the kitchen sink. We have so many people who were killed from the Yasin Kaumas in Arua. And Mr. Museveni went on TV and said, yeah, these Bobby Wines were beaten very well. Can you imagine that? We have people who were disappeared. They have been missing to date. Nabanja says, on record, we arrested some of them. They were trying to kill police officers and so on, and some was business as usual. We have people in jail. Mr. Museveni was talking about detention without trial. There's a young lady called Olivia Lutaye, among several others. 3 to 4 years being held, there's no trial kicking off, and it's okay. We need to look at the economy. You see, they like to say in 1986 our GDP was this, and our GDP per capita, it is this today. You see, Charles, if I set off from here, and I'm headed to, where's your village, Charles?
My village is in Burasha County, in Ruteta sub-county.
On average, how long does it take to get there on a good day?
On a good day, if you're driving a decent car, driving normal speed, it should be about between 4 and 4.5 hours.
Okay, there you are. Let's even say 5. But can you imagine if 5 hours later, you are, let's say, at the Busoga roundabout, assuming you're using that route.
You can jump for 2
hours. You've actually moved, yeah? 10 hours later, you're in Piji. There is progress.
No, in Piji, you're going to Mbarara. So 10 hours later, I'm in Metiana. I'll be taking you around.
So the point I'm making, though, is, yes, there has been some progress, but what kind? Vis-a-vis what should be. There are countries who in the 1960s, and this is a story many people tell, you know, who are at the same level. But today it's a different story altogether. And Charles, whether we like it or not, it's a governance question.
But it's a governance question, I hear you. Is that unique to this country called Uganda? If you look across the African continent, you'll find that most countries find themselves in the same situation. Whether you compare Kenya, for example, with Malaysia, or you compare Tanzania with Singapore, you'll find about the same average then and now. So would you say that has been a unique challenge to this country called Uganda?
Maybe we have the same challenge, because also we should not be excited that at least we are not the only ones in this WhatsApp group. That shouldn't excite you, that you're not alone among the failures. You have company. I don't know if that is okay.
But Museveni has used the comparison that fighting to be the tallest among midgets.
And for us, we are not even trying, in my view. But what I was saying really is, it's a governance question, whether we like it or not, yeah? Because everything rises and falls on leadership. Whether it be economics, it will fail once our governance issues are not sorted out. Whether it be the democracy we huff and puff about, it will fail for as long as our governance issues are not fixed. Okay. So anything and everything will be tethered to that. And until we fix that issue, you see, Mr. Museveni tried to diagnose that problem. He said the problem of African leaders, the problem of Africa is leaders who overstay and don't want to leave. Of course, now he tries to amend it to say who overstay without being voted into power. And again, we can discuss what kind of election it gets to be. But finally, Charles, when you to look at all of that, I think that the other bigger challenge, the quandary that we have with us on our hands is you have a regime that is hell-bent on keeping power against all odds. Focus will not be on anything else. It will be on how do I keep my power. We have been discussing the budget process. You see how the allocations are happening. It is not how do I improve the livelihood of the people. No, how do I keep the seat? So there will be heavy investment there. This Charles is making so much noise, let's, I don't know, give him some money or I don't know what. They will not try and fix the issues this person is talking about. So our preoccupation, our revolutionary leaders' preoccupation is keeping power. Everything else will suffer.
Let me come to you. I mean, you're the closest to the historicals of the NRM on the show. And you've been spokesperson for a long time, from your days at the NRM Secretariat at Development House? Director of Communication to today. Many people ask the question and say, it doesn't actually help 38 years down the road to look at where we came from, because there is enough to interrogate within that 38 years. And the question that Joel raises here, should we be looking at where we are or where we ought to be?
Thank you, Charles. Not just nearest to the historicals of NRM, I'm also the oldest on this panel.
Yes. Respectfully so.
I am 4 score plus. You know 4 score?
No, you could educate me.
A score is 15. So if you are 4 score, you are 60 plus.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, in our old mathematics. And also the first journalist on this panel. I was your news source, same with you. This one a little. Yes, because we
were journalists together.
No, but you came from Makere well after
been in the newsroom longer.
Been in the newsroom. But now, good enough, I have lived in all the independent governments. I lived in Obote 1, I lived in Idi Amin, I lived in the transition of UNLA, the 3 presidents. I lived in Tito Okello, Obote 2, as an adult. Yes, we should continue to compare our journey, irrespective of the duration we have spent in the government. First, we need to congratulate ourselves as Ugandans, NRM and its leadership, for maintaining consistent leadership, steady leadership, which had never been in this country and across Africa. About the economic situation, as you had pointed out, is not unique to Uganda. Look at the countries of Africa that have never had even a bullet fired at a president. Look at Malawi, look at Zambia, look at Tanzania, look at Kenya, and many others in West Africa. Senegal, are they markedly different in terms of socioeconomic transformation whichever indices you pick, literacy, infant mortality, maternal mortality, GDP, are they different? They are not. In fact, many of them, even in our own region that have not had, Uganda is a little bit better than those that have never had a government broken. The fact that a government can be broken when it's supposed to protect its people, and a government that cannot protect itself, and now you have a government that can protect itself, retained power, especially retained power through elections. We can discuss the quality of elections if people want, but at least we have protected power in the main through elections. Election of the president, members of parliament, and other lower leaders. So in that sense, Uganda is very good, and we should continue to compare. And are we the only ones who compare our journey from where we started the journey from? No, we are not the only ones. Look at the old book, the Bible. When was the Bible written? More than 2,000 years ago. Only 10 commandments. God, all-powerful, who created us, has he been able to ensure that the human beings he creates in his own image obey all the 10 commandments? Why would we then expect that a government of human beings will make people comply?
I think the difference between the Bible and the example you're giving is that the 10 commandments of God were for the people he created. The 10-point program of the NRM was a program for the people of the NRM and a promise to Ugandans.
No.
There's a promise and a commandment.
I will come to the 10-point program and the socioeconomic transformation that we are going through, the journey we have made. Now, are we the only ones? Look at countries that have gone much older than ourselves in nation building. Look at America. Why is it that Americans, even today, still talk about the events of 1776? Why are the French talking about the French Revolution and what the French society was before that? Why is the world still talking about Hitler and the vestiges of Hitler to map out where they are and where they need to go? If we have that discourse, I think we shall have a more objective assessment. Now, what the NRM promised, let us just reel through the 10-point program. Point number one, restoration of democracy. And what does democracy mean? Democracy at home, of a child being respected, being treated well. Of the marginalized people, previously, women. I grew up at a time, I have said this on this show before, I don't have a girl I studied with in primary school who transited with me. I sat with in P7, who transited with me to secondary school. In that Malanda Primary School, you can go and check Malanda Primary School. It's only 17 kilometers from Toronto town. None. When I went to school, to secondary school, I was in a mixed school. We had about 100 students. We sat senior 6. Only two girls who came with us to university. One, Elizabeth Karimbe from Uganda, she did the forestry, and another one, Sarah Namadiba, she's in UNEB. Only two. When we were in our class of political science, 1986, with the Nachovies, you can go and ask them how many girls were in that class. Democracy in the community. You know very well, my father was a county chief, Sasa chief, for 27 years. I never saw my father stopping by the butchery to buy meat. the smaller chiefs would bring all the meat and the chicken. Why? Because the chieftaincy of that time was such that the chief must eat free things. The chief must eat free things. Democracy in the schools. I grew up when being caned, what we now call corporal punishment, was the standard. I grew up in this town when you only have 1 or 2 newspapers, 1 radio station, 3 main religious groups. So in terms of civil society institutions as part of the democracy infrastructure, you cannot say the NRM has not delivered. When the NRM came, first of all, we had from 1980, we had situations where when you're about to have elections, a government is broken. Since that time, 38 years, we've had how many cycles of election? I think 9. By universal adult suffrage. NRM is the first one to introduce universal adult suffrage at all levels.
Yes, but NRM would also be accused of being the one that actually always wins those elections.
No, you cannot accuse NRM and try to make us guilty for winning election. However, I admit that some of those elections have not been perfect.
Okay.
But it has been work in progress. I just want to mention 2 more points. Point number 5, building a national economy that is self-sustaining, that is integrated.
We have one?
Yes, to a large extent today. Yes, to a large extent today. When NRM came here, do you know that posho was being smuggled from Kenya? Posho. Do you know that there was no millet and beans in the shops as a tradable commodity? Today, if you go to any shop, whether in the village or in town, between 50 and 60%, you'll find that they are having Ugandan-made merchandise or products. Point number 10.
Point number 7.
Point number 10. Point number 9. I can come back to
point number 7.
Point number 7.
You said you wanted to add to it. Point number 7.
Corruption and abuse of office. Yes, there's still corruption, there's abuse of office. But can you do it with impunity like my father did? That the chief, the chief doesn't have to buy a chicken. The smaller chiefs have to go to the villagers and bring for him a chicken free of charge as a matter of right. Yes, there are people stealing public money. There are people diverting. There are people abusing office. But you cannot do so without fear of the consequences if you are caught. Consequences if you are caught. Okay, if you think stealing government money is easy, you steal and you see the consequences.
But many are stealing.
You cannot make a blanket statement that men are stealing and nothing is happening to them. Where's Kazinda? Where's Permanent Secretary Kashaka? Where are many others? Go to Ruzira, go to the courts of law. If you think stealing public money is easy and you can get away with it, you also try, steal and get away with it. Finally, point number 10, I think, about regional cooperation. Uganda was a pariah. Uganda was exporting refugees, even to Mr. DRC Congo. Uganda was exporting refugees to Mr. Sudan. Uganda was exporting refugees to Mr. Kenya. Today, are we still exporting the same number of refugees? And are we exporting refugees who are having the same problems like those who were there? Or are we
exporting house girls?
Are we? Yes. But you see, you are the same people who are saying the world is a global village. If that is the product you have to export, because nobody is forcing these girls to go. And is Uganda the only country? Go to Philippines.
Two quick ones.
Yes.
Two quick ones I want to put to you. One is you talked a lot about the number of girls who are now in school.
Yes.
Today, the Minister for Education released the results from UNEB
Yes.
of PLE SAT last year.
Yes.
No, you journalists make mistakes. Results are released by UNEB and received by the minister.
By the minister. And well, to the nation, they are released by the...
No, she was
Yes.
also pretending. You don't
No,
release
she
it.
wasn't.
She was
That's how
receiving results.
She receives and then...
Anyway,
Okay,
whatever.
that's a small point.
Errors by any name.
It's still
so
errors.
that's good.
Okay, now, you're
So
talking about
the
those
results
numbers.
you're talking about today.
We've been talking a lot about UPE,
Yes.
Universal Primary Education.
Yes.
We entered 2 million children in primary one.
Yes.
Those who sat P7
Yes.
last year
Yes.
were 76,000.
Yes.
You cannot account for 1 million, 0.25 children.
Well, you
where
can,
are they?
If you want to be positive, negative, you can say the glass is half empty. If I want to be positive, I will say the glass is half full. 20 years ago.
That's actually a quarter full.
20 years ago, how many children were actually entering school? Yes, I agree with you. We entered 2 million. 7 years later, we have 776,000 completing. 20 years ago, were we completing that number? The girls we are talking about in today's result, UPE out of the 60,000 children who sat, you can go and check. 556 are from UPE schools. You can go and check. 52% of the children who sat P7 are girls. Only 48 are boys. I want to believe, and they actually gave the performance over the last 3-4 years. There has been an upward trend of children completing primary living. Now we can go back, those of us who are positive, who are saying the glass is half full. We can go back and say, what is making these children fall out of school? Is it parentage? Is it school? Is it the general malaise in the economy in the country? And then we can tackle one by one.
Okay.
Are we the only ones?
Another small one? You answered that.
You can go to America, by the way. You can go to the United States. Public schools, and private schools, and private education. The situation is similar in the sense that not everybody who enters school actually completes. Now, we need to deal with, if somebody doesn't complete primary 7, does this economy have space for them by way of skilling?
That's the bigger question. But let me just put another small one before I come to Honorable Semoju. The Minister of State for Foreign Affairs gave an interview to NTV and said people who go hungry are idiots.
Maybe he used a thick brush to paint.
Another one said they should be.
Yeah, but I know, but I think what he simply meant, and what the President Museveni said many years ago, he said Uganda is such a fortunate country that you can throw a bean seed. You can throw.
Wasn't he?
No, you can throw a bean seed, and without taking care of it.
Isn't that minister actually living on some cloud somewhere?
No.
Lost to reality of Uganda.
I think he's simply saying there is excessive laxity and carelessness. That if you look at the average Ugandan family today or home, they actually produce enough food, but there's a lot of wastage. There's a lot of wastage. We have rain, like the rain this
you coordinate
this
government
morning.
communication. You've seen the comments people have given, and someone said...
Ugandans on the media, particularly on social media, they will criticize you, even when you say the right thing. You know, in Uganda,
some people are saying...
part of our problem...
Some people are saying 38 years down the road...
Part of our problem as Ugandans is what the Americans call political correctness.
They're saying 38 years down the road...
We know the disease, but we don't want to tell the people that we are being wasteful.
Some Ugandans are saying 38 years down the road, some leaders in the NRM have completely lost touch with the reality on ground and what Ugandans are going through.
Honorable Keloriem is one out of 1 million leaders of NRM. So are you saying what Honorable Kaloriem said, what he said, is it the main axis of the NRM narrative about people who are not having enough food?
Honorable Semu Junganda, pick it up.
Narrative?
Let me have Honorable Semu Junganda pick it up.
Statement?
Yes, let me have Honorable Semu Junganda pick it up. Your own score of the NRM and President Museveni after 38 years.
I think the pillars of NRM, people who went to Luwero to fight, have all judged themselves at one time or another. The Honorable John Kazora left Makere, I think, at 21, 22. He told me when the graduation took place, they were in the jungles of Luwero. At that time, Radio Uganda was the only one. So he followed the graduation on Radio Uganda and his name was read. His book is called Betrayed by My Leader. The Honorable Sam Njuba, the late, he was in meetings preparing for NRM to begin fighting. And then Museveni went to attack Kabamba with certain group. He actually abandoned his family and went to Nairobi. He was part of the Chirunda Chivejinja, Mathuru Kikaire, Amama Mbabazi, and others. His book is The Betrayal. There are others who haven't written. Dr. Wesley, I don't think, has written a book. Major General Mugisha Muntu hasn't written a book. He also went to the university with Tumukunda. I think they went different days. They are meant to have gone together. The Honorable Manya Mushega, the late Honorable Elia Kategaya. So all the NRM people who founded the NRM, think there is a very big problem. This NRM diverted from the path. If you read Mr. Museveni's book, by the time they took power here,
which one?
The Mustard
Seed.
The formation of NRA as a group, I think, was 1st Battalion, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and I think 9. Then later they formed the 12, which was being commanded by Lieutenant General, the one who recently retired. Go and look at all those people who commanded, from Chihanda to Mande to Kashaka, whose deputy was Kashiring, who died a pupa. He couldn't even find 20,000 to buy medicine.
He has family who's watching, and they should have been able to provide for that. They are in position to
but
provide.
But he was, I mean, until he got sick, I interacted with him. He wanted to continue working. So I don't want to be the judge of NRM because I would be biased. I am telling you, people who went to fight in Luwero with Museveni have judged him, they have judged themselves, they are all disappointed. Because on the major, on the major reason, Museveni never went to Luwero because Uganda's economy was doing very bad. That's not the reason. And I don't know why even Ofono Pondo is wasting his time. It is not the economy that took Museveni to Luwero. Museveni went to fight in Luwero because primarily elections had been cheated. And that's why his first book, What is Africa's Problem, the Honorable Joel Sonyonya has referred to, has nothing to do with the economy. He went to fight because elections in Uganda had been cheated. Judge Museveni's elections. He cheats elections more or less the same way people who went to fight here were cheating elections. He shoots and kills people during elections. And he has said many times, how can I be removed by just a mere paper? Haven't you heard him say so?
I was looking at his speech here. We'll pick a few things from it today, the speech marking 38 years. And I know many of our viewers watched the speech here on NBS. Just continue.
Yes. So on the major issue for which the NRM was launched, I think Museveni gets 0 if you want me to score him. He's behaving the same way, still disappearing. People are still shooting. Younger people opposing him. He behaves more or less like all the others behaved. In fact, worse than Obote. The NRA, I even told a certain minister who was in Parliament this afternoon to read a statement about the NRM day. And I said, this NRA is supposed to be illegal. The 1995 Constitution created UPDF. The idea was that the country must migrate from gorillas of Ruwero, create national institutions, and the pride should be national institutions, not in a military outfit that went and shot and killed 500,000 people and captured power. That's why those who made the Constitution said, please, thank you very much, but we need to move from this point to this. But the NRA, look at the amount of investment we have made. The last time when you were speaking about military, I told you go back to 2002 when with some funding from the British, we set out to professionalize the army, make it a national army, build very strong institutions, because human beings are going to, whether you like it or not, Museveni will go. You are saying we should celebrate because he has been in power for 38 years. He can even be 40. Gaddafi was 43. After 43, he left and see what happened to a country. Because he tampered with the foundation, he did not build a foundation. He was just building himself. What Museveni has done for the last 38 years is to build himself and his family. That's why even people of intellect now, they don't see beyond Museveni and beyond his family. They don't see anything. You can meet people who you think are sensible. They are saying now standby generator. They think that it is a right. Ufono was speaking about his father who was a chief. Over smaller things that his father thought that it was a right to receive a tomato and cassava. These guys think
he said chicken and meat.
These guys think it is the right for them to be leaders. Today in Parliament we are discussing the Minister of Education. The last time she was seen was on the day she was being vetted by Parliament. And they said she can't come because there are COVID issues. For her to come to Parliament, all MPs will be checked because she is the wife of the president. I asked Mr. Museveni when you're on radio, I can put up with your father who was getting free chicken. These guys are stealing land. They are stealing government factories. They are stealing stock farms. At least I would put up with your father of chicken and tomato. You can't plead for this Ofono Opondo. People who think that now my son, just because he's my son, he must have a convoy. That I said, really, Museveni's son has a convoy, including a toilet at his age. At least his father is old. But they think they own.
Does he have the convoy because he's Museveni's son or because he's a general in the military?
Is he the only general you know?
And the other generals with the convoys? Is he the only general with a convoy?
It's the only one I know. Tell me another one who has a convoy.
We'll discuss that. We'll discuss that after a very short
break. So
therefore,
break. For me,
yes, let me pick it up with you after a very short break. And I just want to highlight some of the issues the president spoke about in his own audit accountability of his 38 years. He talks about security for all the people in Uganda, human capital development. He talks about industrialization. He talked about sustainable energy development. He talked about building a knowledge-based economy. He talked about oil and gas development. He talked about implementation of the parish development model. He talked about jobs creation, and he has the numbers. He talks about inflows of foreign direct investment, remittances. He talks about increasing tourism revenue, and he talks about regional integration and development. He also talked about trade flows within the East Africa, EAC region, and the rest of the world. And I think the last one he talked about, I'll just pick that one up as we take a break. Yes, external trade, changes in the prices of goods and services, which is inflation. And he talked about, yes, expansion in economic activities. That's where he starts his discussion from, pointing out what his achievements have been over the last 38 years. When we come back, we'll let Semuju conclude his point, and then we go to Ambassador Adonia Ayebare. We'll be right back.
NBS Frontline.
Why does Johnny Walker blend whiskey? Imagine these are single malts. This one's smoky, rich and fruity, and this one's creamy. Now, individually, they're great, but blended together in Johnny Walker Black Label, you get taste that hits all the right notes.
Are you having headache, sore throat, muscle pain, toothache, or fever? Then use Curamo Plus. Curamo Plus is strong on pain and gentle on stomach. It's available in all drug shops countrywide. It's not recommended for children under the age of 12 years. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
It's time to get stepping, because if you upgrade your DSTV subscription now, we'll step you up to an even higher package.
Respect that.
Upgrade now and step up to even more action. Step up to more football. Step up to more local drama. Step up to more fun and get more than you pay for. Upgrade now and get boosted to the next package at no extra cost. Visit your MultiChoice branch or